All right, Bruchim Habayim, welcome everyone. Today is Shiva Asar Tammuz, the 17th of Tammuz, which is a fast day. It's called in the Bible, in the book of Zechariah, the fast of the 4th month. And it's the first day of a traditional 3-week period of mourning in the Jewish communities. Today I presented the following ideas. I'm not going to say verbatim what I said over, but basic ideas that I said over at work today. I work in a prison as a prison chaplain, and this is just what came out. I didn't really prepare anything. We davened together. I read even though we didn't have a minyan, but I read the Torah reading from the Chumash and the Haftorah reading without any brachas, Hebrew and English. We read Avinu Malkeinu, Hebrew and English, and then for a few minutes I got down to speak, but sat down to speak. And this is basically what I started to talk about. So I began talking because one of the guys, he's interested in birds and which birds are kosher, which ones aren't. And we got to the discussion of pigeons and doves. And I said pigeons and doves are appropriate to speak about on Shiva Asar Tammuz, because this is the day that the sacrificial system ended. And the Chazal say, sages teach in the Talmud, that you should always be from the nirdafim v'loiv min haroidfim. I didn't say this over, but it reminds me of the story of, we just had last week the yard side of Kloisenberger Rav's Chassid Aleinu. Kloisenberger Rav's Chassid Aleinu, he said that when the story goes, was the Nazis, Yimach Shemam, were kicking him in the head, stepping on his head with their boots. And they said to him, do you still believe that you're from the chosen people? And he said, as long as I'm the one with the boot on my head and not with my boot on someone else's head, I'm still from the chosen people. And that echoes this, what Chazal say, you should always be from those who are pursued, from the victims, and not from the pursuers, not from the aggressors. Because there's no bird that is more pursued than the pigeon and the dove. And yet those are the only birds that go up on the altar. As it says in the book of Ecclesiastes, in Megillas Koheles, that God seeks out the one who's pursued, the victim. But more than that, we also read the Torah reading for Shiva Asar Tammuz, the Torah reading for every fast day, Shachris and Mincha, except Tisha B'Av, they only read it by Mincha, and Yom Kippur is a different category altogether. So we read Achrei Mos. And Tisha B'Av in the morning we read a different Haftorah from Yirmiyah. And a different Torah reading we read from Deuteronomy. Sorry. But this that we read every fast day, and you could even read it, you could get 6 guys to fast and 4 more guys to come together, and you could take the Torah out pretty much any day that you're allowed to fast. Such a thing. And you could read a Haftorah in the afternoon. If you have 6 guys fasting, you could do it. And people do a Bahab and Shovavim, and some people even do for Yom Kippur Kota. People who lane, some people do for Hayir. In Yerushalayim, what's it called? The Torah V'Yira in Yerushalayim. They read the fast day for Hayir. Anyway, so when I think of Yerushalayim, that's I think of Tol Zara and Tol Mitzchak. You know, I don't think by them they fast like that. They have, but there are Batei Medrash, and any time you could get together and fast, as long as the day you're allowed to fast. And most of the days that you're not allowed to fast is Torah reading anyway. You know, not all of them, but a lot of them. So you could have a bar mitzvah. But anyway, but Shiva Asar B'Tammuz is when we're reading the Torah reading that is about Shiva Asar B'Tammuz. And because we read about after the sin of the golden calf, and Moshe Rabbeinu breaks the luchos. Moses breaks the tablets, and then he asks for forgiveness. And what we read on the fast day is about Moses asking for forgiveness in the book of Exodus, chapter 32 and 34. And excuse me, I've been fasting all day. So, and that's one of the things we mourn. And I said, first we have to come up with where did this idea of a golden calf come from? Why did they make a golden calf? So some of the people, particularly there were Egyptians who left with them and other people, those people and some non-human entities, extraterrestrials, hybrid extraterrestrials, especially I've spoken about this before, especially in Egypt where they had so much interaction with extraterrestrials, so they had hybrids that were part human and part extraterrestrial. And because a lot of the extraterrestrial races were originally from Earth, historically, biologically, some were and some weren't. But in Egypt they had a lot of interaction with these groups, and so you had these hybrids, and that's why they're called Erev Rav. They usually translate as the mixed multitude, but Erev Rav could also be translated as the hybrid masters. And so there were some from the Erev Rav who worshipped the golden calf, whether the human Erev Rav or the hybrid extraterrestrial Erev Rav. And then beyond that, there were people who meant L'Shem Shemayim. They had good intentions of making a golden calf. Why? Because our sages teach that what the slave girl saw by the Red Sea, when they crossed the Red Sea, was a higher level of prophecy and a greater revelation than what Ezekiel saw. And so if they saw what Ezekiel didn't see, that's what literally it says, they saw what Ezekiel didn't see, so all the more so they saw what Ezekiel saw also. And so, and Ezekiel saw the chariot, the wheels, and it was the face of the human, or sometimes the face of the cherub, which is a baby face. And sometimes, and then one face was a lion, and one face was the Yaner, the eagle, and one face was the ox. And since the human had the baby cherub, and the cherub was what we had in the Holy of Holies on the Ark of the Covenant, talking about the shore, this is where I hit the cow. So selbe Zach, the baby ox is like half, right? And they made the golden calf to serve the same purpose as whatever purpose the cherubim served, which were to be what the Torah says, they were like an antenna. They were a conduit for prophecy. God said He'd speak to the people through between them and speak to Moses between the wings of the cherubim. And so, anyway, we see a proof from this that, and I was marked a little bit more about this, but just very basically, when Yerovam ben Nevat, when Jeroboam made the fake temples, one in Dan and one in Beersheba, Dan and Beersheba, right? He put in their golden calves, not initially for worship, but to replace the Kruvim. Maybe. Anyway, weiter. This is the day when Moshe Rabbeinu broke the luchos, and this is the day when the korbanos stopped. Because both of these things are godly, but they're to teach us a lesson of iconoclasm, not to be fooled and go after our eyes and our hearts, but rather to what do you call it? Not to go after your eyes or your hearts, but rather to what do you call it? To look at the big picture. And I mentioned, so that was the mistake with the golden calf, and similar, and they destroyed the golden calf. And similarly, a few weeks ago we read about the copper snake that Moses was commanded to make, and yet King Hezekiah destroyed it, right? Because the purpose of the snake was to humble our hearts before our Father in heaven. It's Mishnah in Rosh Hashanah. If it wasn't doing that, it deserved to be destroyed. Even the luchos themselves, and even the Meiser Korbanos, even the cult of the sacrifices, had to be dismantled. To wake us up to the big picture and to look beyond. And I discussed a little bit with Rabbi Gladstein, talked about Shavuos Tammuz being a day of hope. We mentioned Zechariah saying that, remember, they asked him, do we fast on these fast days now that we rebuilt the second temple? He said, yes, we still fast, but when the Mashiach comes and there's the third temple, then there'll be days of joy. And Rabbi Gladstein brought down from the Chassam Sofer that the Davidic dynasty had its roots in this day, that Obed, the father of Ishai, the father of David, that Obed, the father of Jesse, the father of David, was conceived on Shavuos Tammuz, the whole cheshbon from the Chassam Sofer. And what was I saying? And that the 4th of July, I knew about this, on 1776 was Shavuos Tammuz. And Rabbi Gladstein brought, what did Aaron say when they made the calf? Chag L'Shem Mocher, will be a feast to the Lord tomorrow, meaning in the future, when we have a yontiv of the 4th of July. There's been a Shemayim, because the founders originally thought it would be the 2nd of July, and it was just something happened, they couldn't all get together for the 4th of July. We still have to fast on Shavuos Tammuz, but we can celebrate the 4th of July. It's a kosher, secular holiday. It shouldn't just be a secular holiday, it should be a day of Hakaras HaTov. Although this year it was Yom Kippur Katan, I fasted on the 4th of July, at least half the day, because it was such a. I understand it's a time of judgment on this land, on this country, on this republic, on our constitutional republic, and we have to pray, and we have to fast, and we have to repent, and turn our hearts back to Hashem. And the luchos says haluchos libecha, kosvei maluchos libecha. There's luach libecha. The tablets are our heart. The tablets represent our hearts, and our hearts represent the tablets. And we have to leiv nishbar v'lunidka elokim le'sivzeh, sivche elokim ruach nishbara. We break our hearts, and that's how we get to Hashem. Because all the korbanos that were behemoths and oifas, those were korban l'Hashem. But sivche elokim ruach nishbara. Hashem is a name of Rachamim. Hashem has to have mercy and compassion to accept a korban that's a behemoth, from the cattle or the sheep or the goats or the pigeons or the doves. But when our heart is broken, that is a sacrifice to God. And when that and God does not despise a broken heart or a contrite spirit. So we have to break our heart and we have to break our soul and humble ourselves before our Father in heaven. That's how we'll be victorious. And so this day that has so much potential in it, that's Chag Lashem Mochar, that's the festival to the Lord tomorrow. When Mashiach comes, it'll be a festival to the Lord. It'll be Chag Lashem, like Aaron HaKohen said. It has that potential that the seeds of David HaMelech were planted on this night, on the night of Shavuos Tammuz. That this great republic was founded, declared our independence from Britain on this day, which is mamish an inyan of Reishis Smichas Kulasenu. That we have this country where there's a place like Lakewood, it's the Ir Shel Torah, a place like Kiryas Yol, it's the Ir Shel Torah, Tefillah and Chasidus and Chesed. Never had such a thing. We'd have a little ghetto. How many Yidden lived in Verms to be Bechlal? How many Yidden lived in any of these places? In Vizhnitz, Satmar, Bobov, Lubavitch, Breslov, in Baghdad, in Hamadan. How many Yidden? How many were learned Torah? How many were Erlich Yidden in Vilna, in Volozhin, even in the yeshiva? And here we have places like Kiryas Yol and New Square and Lakewood that are whole cities of Torah and Yerushalayim. But it's a double-edged sword because there's also a lot of assimilation. And what we make out of it is what we make out of it. If we break our hearts on this day and humble ourselves before our Father in heaven, He will have mercy on us and turn them to days and reveal the innermost panemius of these days and bring about the time of the scholars Kvod Shemayim. And like we read in the Haftarah, Ki based Tefillah Yikor L'Chol Amim, when it'll be that God's house will be a house of prayer for all the peoples, and the whole world will be filled with the knowledge of the Lord like the waters cover the seas. Thank you for watching. God bless. Please like, share, and subscribe. I hope I helped you have a meaningful fast day, whether you're fasting or not. I hope I brought out the meaning of this day, and I thank Hashem for giving me these words, because I'm not worthy to say such words, but I'm also trying to do tshuva, and especially this time, in this season in history, we have to focus on doing tshuva, because we have the potential to see a realization of eschatology in the most positive and beautiful way, but we have to do so in a way of humility. God bless. Please like, share, and subscribe, comment. We hope to see you later.